So today what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing a review on the Züca case, and I got this I think about 2 months ago now. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to do a comparison review. So I've got the Züca case here, and then I'm going to be doing a review with what I used to use. And depending on your budget, depending on what you're doing, one or the other is going to work for you. So it's kind of like a comparison review. I'm going to start off with the Züca. I can't remember how much I paid for it, so I'll put a little annotation here for that. So I'll just pop it on the stool so you can see this a little bit better. This is what it looks like from the side. It has rubber wheels, so very good for minimising the amount of vibrations which go up the case and could potentially wreck your makeup. That was something that always worried me when I used to use this case, because this doesn't have rubber wheels, it has plastic wheels, and obviously plastic doesn't absorb shock as much, so that was always a worry for me when I was using this to carry my makeup around, is that it could just shape the makeup so much that an eyeshadow could pop, and that was always a worry. But anyway, you don't have that problem with this. It has really good rubber wheels. It also has these little feet right here that are also a little bit rubberized, so when you're leaning it back it's fine, when you put it down it's not going anywhere. It comes with, I'm pretty sure this is titanium, I could be wrong, I can't remember the exact details from it. Just a metal frame. What you can do is you can also take this outer case off, so if you need to wash it or if it gets dirty, you can just peel it all off and leave just the frame, wash it and then put everything back on. It has a whole load of little cases and slots. It has a little slot here. It has another one down here which goes down to the metal. It also has a little name tag, so very useful if you're travelling. You can put everything, your name, the details, all that kind of stuff in here. There's a little slot back here technically, but it's not really meant for that. That's mainly just for the handle. Now on the side you've got a little slot here, and then what I do is I keep my makeup brushes in here in my case. I have, what I do is I keep makeup brushes for two very different things. I have makeup brushes that I use for my tutorials and for myself, that I keep in one place, and then I have the makeup brushes which I keep for when I'm doing makeup on other people. These tend to be the brushes which are either slightly better quality, easier to handle, easier to wash, and just better in general, and my favourite brushes. So I keep those all in here. And that was one of the things that I like about this, is I can put this in the roll. What I normally do is I just wrap around the top, I clip everything so that it's all wrapped up, and then what I do is I just keep it slotted down the side so that it's upright. It's not going to fall out, none of the brushes are going to slip out and get damaged. So for me that is a very, very big plus. What I used to do when I had a case like this is I would keep my brushes in the centre slot. There's a little case, not a case, a kind of section in this case where I would keep my makeup brushes, and what I would do is I would keep my makeup brushes in here in my little brush belt. Problem with that is that the brushes could sometimes slip out and they would get caught in this mesh, and then by the time you arrive wherever you were going, the bristles had been kind of pushed back and splayed out and it would damage them. And I obviously didn't like that. That isn't something I've had to really worry about with the Züca case, because I can just slot them down the side and they're not going anywhere, and there's nothing for the bristles to catch on, and I just killed my case. Yeah, not really something I have to worry with the Züca, because I can just pop it in there, there's no mesh that's going to catch on it, and it's not really going anywhere. There's also a tiny little slot here, but I don't really use it because it's so small that you end up putting things in there and then forgetting you even have them. I think it's exactly the same for the other side, same idea. There's a little front slot here, there's a little zip slot back here. Normally what I do is I put my face charts on this side, so I have the makeup brushes on one side and then face charts for any work that I'm doing there. I will keep them in here so that they don't get in the way, and again a little slot which I don't really use at the front. Before I go into what the inside is like, I'm going to mention the handle and the little case at the back. It has a little retractable handle like this, which is a lot sturdier than the travel case that I have. It also has this little grip at the front, and it also has a grip at the back. So let's say you're taking this on a plane and you need to put it on the overhead locker. I don't think that this meets the requirements for what you're allowed to take on board, but let's say you're travelling just on the train and you need to still put it on the overhead slot. You can lift it very easily with the grip at the back and then the grip at the front. So I'm going to show you what the inside looks like, and this is the bit that really sold me. So it has a little slot like this. It's magnetic, and because this frame is metal, it actually kind of sticks quite nicely on the top. And before I forget, you can actually sit on this. This is designed to be able to take someone's weight. So let's say you're in a very restricted space, you're working on models, or maybe you just need to sit down, or you're traveling to a place, you can sit on this and this is going to be able to handle your weight, no problem. For me, that is a massive plus, because I hate getting on the train and knowing that I have an 8 or 12-hour day ahead of me and I can't even sit down on the train from Reading to London. That drives me mad. So I can just sit down on this and I'm not going to have any problems. Sitting down on this little case is not advisable. You can do it, but you never really feel like you can put your whole weight down because you're worried something is going to be like, nope, not happening. So yeah, that's one big plus for me. Then what you do is you have a little slot like this. You can get different kind of Züca cases. The reason I got this one where this slot opens out like a book is I didn't want something that's slotted out like that because it gets in the way, it can make people trip, and it's just a little bit annoying. I don't like things ending up on the floor. This, I can open it, the back of it's not going to hit the floor or anything like that. You don't always know where you're working, you don't know what's ended up on the floor, so as few things that touch the floor, the better, in my opinion. So I like that this just slots out. It has a little slot here for things like hairbands, what's the word I'm looking for, hairsprays. Normally if I'm taking any kind of hair stuff, it will go in here. So you have all these little cases. Depending on the brand you get, some of them will have little name tags, some of them won't. I like the fact that they have name tags, but it's not terribly essential for me because I do have plastic cases which I can use as alternatives. So they're transparent at the top, they're not transparent anywhere, no, not anywhere, they're not transparent all over, they're just transparent at the top. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these cases. So normally what you do is, let's say you put one with eyeshadows, you put one with foundations, you put one with skincare, in any kind of order that you want to put them. The inside is not padded, at least not intentionally, but there is a little bit of a kind of padding to it. It does also have this little slot up here, and what I do is I have this little transparent case where I'll put things like bits and bobs, so mascaras, eyelash glue, tweezers, disposable mascara wands, anything like that. It will go in a very small little case that looks like this, if I can find it. I have a small case like this. It's smaller than this actually. I can't find it for the moment, but I like these little transparent cases because I actually kind of prefer them to the Züca cases. Now these, you can get a pack of 3. You can get a larger one, a medium-sized one, which is this size, and then a smaller one, which fits inside. And you can get those in Superdrug for I think £5. These I think cost around £25 per one. So they're good, and they came with a case, so it wasn't, yeah, I'm not complaining. They do also have a handle, but then you can also get clear cases which have a handle. Now if we're doing a comparison between these little Züca cases and the cheap little £5 ones you can get from Superdrug, I do prefer the Superdrug ones because you can see straight through them, through the whole case. You can't see straight through them with the Züca cases. Now these, the transparent ones you can get with handles. Now the Züca ones do come with handles as well, which are a little bit more compact and don't get in the way. But I just prefer having a case which is transparent all over because I can see exactly what's in it at a glance. And as far as the name tag goes, it's easy enough for me to just sew on a little name tag. And if you can already see exactly what's inside it, you don't really need the name tag. And for me, I've got a pretty established system. Skincare in one, eyeshadow in others, a smaller case for lipstick, and then one for palettes. And all my palettes things are depotted, so I have blushes in one, lipsticks in another, darker lipsticks in the different palettes, so everything's more or less colour coded. So for me it's a very good system, and I personally prefer little cases like this, which also do fit very nicely in the Züca bag. You can get clear cases like this on Amazon, eBay. I got mine in Superdrug. You can find them pretty much anywhere, so if you do end up getting a Züca and you want an alternative to these, I don't know if you can get the Züca just with this case and not with the little pouches, but if you can, then these are probably something to consider, especially if it saves you a lot of money, because they do the same job, and in my opinion they do it slightly better just because they're transparent all over. And also by having a clear case, you can see when they get dirty much quicker. The problem with having a darker case or something like this is that you can't always see when there's dirt on them. And especially with makeup, you want to be as hygienic as possible. But anyway, that's what the inside of this case looks like. It has a little slot like this, and normally I have a little transparent bag like this where I'll put tiny little bits and bobs, and then that just slots at the top here, and it's out of the way, it doesn't get in anyone's way, it's all good. But yeah, that's what the inside of the Züca case looks like, and this is what it's like when they're all in there. There's normally a little bit of space left over, so what I do is once all these are in, if I need a little bit more stuff packed in there, I'll take one of my transparent cases, I'll pack that up, and then I'll pop that in there, and then we don't have a problem. And then you can just zip it all up, fold down the top, and you're good to go. And you can sit on this one. It's very sturdy. It can take my weight, and I'm pretty heavy, if we're being honest, and it can take my weight without a problem. So if you're on a train and you just really need to sit down, you can do that without a problem, and it's not going to cause any issues. You can get the model to sit on it. It's just really handy because it is very compact. It is very sturdy. I like the fact that it has rubber wheels. I like the fact that you can take out the outside and clean it without a problem. I also like that this is a little bit stronger than most of the handles that you get in travel cases as well. And I also like the fact that it has tons of pouches so that I can pop my makeup brushes on the side, and I can always have them in here. They're not going to go walkies. And I just like the fact that it has little pouches. I really like it when there's loads of different compartments because I like to always keep anything that I have, if it's makeup, if it's clothes, if it's art supplies, I like having specific places for specific things. It means I'm less likely to lose things, and even though I am a bit of a scatterbrain, there's always a kind of order to the chaos. There's always places that I will put things. So having all these little pouches is very handy. Now, compared to what I used to use was just an ordinary travel case like this. And it's just, yeah, a hard shell case. Now the downside to using a case like this compared to the Züca is the Züca, you can open it up, you can see exactly what's inside it, and it's going to be upright. It's not really going to take much more space other than the space that it is standing on. But the problem with using a travel case is that when you open it up, you can't just open it up a little bit and pull stuff out. You can, but it's not very neat and you end up with an absolute mess. You normally have to open it up and have it flat on the ground. Now obviously that takes up a lot of space, and since when you're working with doing people's makeup, you tend to have quite restricted spaces. You don't tend to have a ton of spaces. If you're lucky, you'll have a table to lay your makeup out on. Not always the case. So having a case like this on the floor can sometimes be a little bit of a nightmare because people can trip on it. It takes up a lot of space. And you keep having to close it and open it because people need to get past, or you need to get past, and you don't necessarily want to have your case wide open with the makeup all there for someone to trip over. So in terms of space, it is a little bit annoying. These little cases are very cheap. You can just get them in Sainsbury's, Asda, Tesco's. You can get them pretty much anywhere. I got these in Superdrug, and for me it was a case of 3. You can normally get a case which is about this size, one which is slightly smaller than this one, a medium size, and then you get a smaller pouch which is right in the middle, and for me at least I paid £5 for those, so they're very, very cheap. And what I normally used to do is I would have the case, and I would have a larger case at the bottom with things like foundations, concealers, anything like that, and then I would have 2 smaller medium-sized cases. This is a smaller one obviously, but I can't find my medium-sized case, so I'm going to have to demo with that. And then I would have 2 medium-sized cases up here. And then what I would normally do is I would close this over so it was held in place, it wasn't going to go anywhere, and then anything else went on this side. Now it's a perfectly good thing to use. It's very cheap, it's very efficient. Problem is that you do have some drawbacks. It's not as compact. You can't sit on it like the Züca. It doesn't have as many compartments so that you can put things in different places. One of the two big things that really kind of annoy me in terms of comparing it with a Züca is that it doesn't have rubber wheels, so it does shake a lot more. And it was always a worry whenever I was travelling somewhere, is that while I was kind of dragging it along behind me, I could feel it going and I was thinking an eyeshadow could pop at any minute. So that was always a worry. And also what I didn't like is that on the little middle section here where I used to keep my makeup brushes, which was the only place that I could really keep them securely. I could just pop them straight into the rolled up in the bag, but the problem is that they kept slipping out and they ended up at the bottom of the bag, just kind of pressed up at the bottom, and again you wreck the bristles. You don't really want to be doing that, and it damaged the brushes. So that for me was what made me, when I saw the Züca, I was like, I'm really going to try it out. Now obviously there's pros and cons to both of these. I'm pretty sure that I've listed the pros and cons to both of them. The pros with the Züca is that in terms of doing makeup professionally, you're going to have no problems. It is sturdy, and unless you chuck this down the side of a mountain, it is not going to break on you. It has compartments for everything. You're not really going to need, unless you're doing some kind of monstrous shoot where you have 25 people that you have to do makeup on, you're not going to really need to have more stuff than this. If you do, you're probably going to want to get more Züca cases, or at least a few assistants. If you're doing makeup professionally and you want something sturdy to carry your makeup on, this is probably worth it. Actually not, it is worth it if you're doing makeup professionally, because it ticks all the boxes. The only downside really for the Züca is that it is quite expensive, and that's where this one is quite a pro. It is very cheap. It is very easy to get your hands on these things. It is very easy to get your hands on the little plastic cases, on any kind of travel case that you want. The downside is that it does take up quite a lot of space, and normally when you're working with makeup, the places that you're working in do tend to have quite limited space. You're lucky if you have a table, and there aren't really kind of places for you to put your makeup. You have to pack everything in those little cases. It does take up space, it doesn't have rubberized wheels, and your brushes do tend to get damaged quite a lot, which for me is a massive drawback. You protect your brushes, those things are your livelihood. Makeup, you can almost work with any kind of bad quality makeup. Bad brushes can wreck your day, and a wrecked makeup brush, apart from being quite expensive, it's just, bad tools make things very, very hard to work with. So they do have their pros and cons. It is absolutely possible to work with something like this. I worked with something like this for 3 years without a problem. It had its drawbacks, but it was perfectly usable. Now that I have my Zuka though, I am a fully converted Zuka lover. So those are the pros and cons of both methods of carrying your makeup around. If you're a student, you're probably going to want to use something like this, or if you have a very tight budget. If you can, and you've got the means to do makeup full time, do consider getting a Zuca. It will make a massive difference, but the price is obviously quite high, and it's not something that everyone can afford, and it's certainly not something that everyone thinks they need. If you think that you can just work without this and you won't mind the problems that I listed using something like this, then go ahead and use that. It will work just as well. But those are the pros and cons of the Zuca versus using just an ordinary travel case. I hope the video helped. I'm pretty sure I covered all the pros and cons of using the travel case versus using the Zuca. But I will also have a kind of overview on my blog listing the pros and cons of each method of carrying your makeup around. Anyway, so that's my review of the Zuca case versus the travel case. I hope it was really informative. I hope I covered everything. I'm pretty sure I covered everything. But I will have a list of everything that I covered on my blog, so if you just want to see it in bullet points listing pros and cons, I will have that on my blog post. The link to that will be in the description box. I hope the video helped, and I will have a new video for you soon.